So the next part of the assignment was to think about what your 4 pillars are, like what you know yourself to embody, and to kind of keep it in your mind loosely, and then just like kind of go out in nature and see what speaks to you. And so I went on a walk with that in mind, and then I noticed a pine, like a conifer, an evergreen branch on the ground, and it was surrounded by all of these, you know, perennial type foliage. And so, you know, in my mind I was like, oh yeah, this is like about, you know, being constant and in the face of you know, cycles, or like being there for the long haul and not like a momentary trend. I went closer and I saw this tiny feather. And what's really weird is before I left on this walk, I had to put on these like sweatpants, and in the pocket there was a metal feather. And I was on a trail, and I wanted to go off the trail, and I went off. As soon as you enter the woods off the trail, it felt very different, like quieter and magical. And as I walked into it, I came upon this grove of trees. To me, they looked like they were in a formation. So I looked at it for a while and was hoping for some, you know, signs. I did see there's one side of it on the left that is this like cool lattice work of almost like a curtain of branches. And it's from a tree that has broken in half when I saw it, I was like, oh, that's the way that I, like, you know, break myself to try to connect to other people. Like, that's not the way to do it. And a little further off, there's this beautiful tree that looks like there's a hole in the center, like a yoni, but it's actually not a hole. It's one trunk, but then it splits off into two branches that go equally high. And it's like, yeah, that's the way to connect. I decided I wanted to make a border, and I moved all the big branches that were on the ground, like, to go outside the perimeter of these trees. And then I started to clear what was in the middle. I realized I was like clearing space, and then it reminded me, like in the Paralandra Garden Guidebook, so she talks about, you know, you create the garden with your intention, but then it's nice if you know, since you're communicating with nature spirits and the devas, to make I don't know what she calls it, but I'm going to call it a sanctuary just for nature. So it's a gift. It's something that you like rope off, and you don't enter, and you don't let anyone else enter. So even though you're not interfering with it, it's like the very fact that you're intending it and designating, it's like carving out space for someone and like paying attention to it and watching what happens, you know? So I really love that idea. But I also like the idea of going into it myself. Anyway, when I started to clear this area, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm making that, you know, like, oh, so I'm consecrating the space as like a place where I celebrate nature. I ended up putting the baby feather in the hole in the tree on the right, and on the tree on the left there was this perfect rock, and I put the metal feather underneath that. And there's a lot of metaphors in there, but for now I'm just taking it as, you know, keeping myself light and also connected. So I'm still waiting for the flower seeds for the indoor garden I decided to co-create with her, but I decided I'm gonna just like throw them here without tending and see what happens. And I love that idea I just love the idea of someone walking up and seeing something that's like distinctly beautiful. Like, nature's already so beautiful, but to see, yeah, that someone tended to it and like drew a line around it, you know, so that it could strike you more specifically, to come upon something like that, you know. And so that's what I'm co-creating.